In the wide valleys of Montana Territory, where the wind carried dust and secrets across miles of open land, lived Mary Dalton, a 32-year-old widow who had learned to survive in silence. Her husband, Robert, had died 2 years earlier in a river accident while hauling lumber, leaving her alone on the Dalton homestead, with more debt than crops and a barn roof that leaked every time the sky grew dark. Mary was known for her strength, but strength didn't fix broken fences or pay overdue taxes. It didn't stop neighbors from whispering that a woman had no business tending to a ranch alone. It didn't soften the eyes of Sheriff Holden, who kindly reminded her every month that if she fell behind again, the county would reclaim her land. On the morning of October 8, 1884, Mary stood outside her cabin, staring at the broken shingles hanging from her barn roof. A storm was coming. She could feel it in the heavy air and see it in the way the clouds piled over the mountains, like giant gray mountains of their own. If the barn leaked again, she'd lose her last 2 cows, and losing them meant losing everything. She knelt beside one of the cows, Daisy, brushing her side gently. "I'm trying," she whispered. "I don't know how much more I can hold together, but I'm trying." The wind answered with a mournful whistle through the pines. She didn't hear the footsteps at first, not until they were close. Slow, heavy, dragging footsteps. The kind that belonged to someone carrying both distance and hunger. Mary rose quickly, wiping her hands on her dress. Her heart raced. Strangers in the mountains rarely meant peace, and a widow alone was an easy target. But when she looked toward the road, she froze. A tall man walked toward her, boots worn thin, coat torn at the shoulders, beard untrimmed, and eyes dark as midnight. His skin was sunburned, his jaw tight, and he carried a small pack slung over one shoulder. He looked like a man who had slept under trees more nights than he'd slept in beds. He stopped a few steps away and lowered his eyes respectfully. "Ma'am," he said in a low voice, "I'm sorry to bother you. I'm looking for work. Any work at all. Haven't eaten in 2 days. If you've got a fence that needs fixing or firewood that needs stacking, I'll do it for a plate of food." Mary hesitated. She had heard enough stories to know drifters were dangerous. Men without homes were said to have no rules, no loyalties, no conscience. The settlement gossips claimed that mountain wanderers stole what they couldn't earn and vanished into the timber before dawn. But this man's eyes told a different story. They carried sorrow, but not cruelty. Hunger, but not greed. Shame, but not deceit. "What's your name?" she asked. "Caleb," he answered softly. "Caleb Ward. I used to do carpentry work before." He stopped, swallowing hard. Like the rest of that sentence hurt too much to say. Before life changed. Mary studied him closely. He was thin. Too thin. His hands were rough, calloused, the hands of a man used to real labor. His shoulders slumped as if the world had sat on them too long. "I need my barn roof fixed," she admitted. "Storm's coming tonight. If it leaks again, I'll lose my cattle." Caleb turned to study the roof, his eyes sharpened like a trained craftsman waking from a long sleep. "Ma'am," he said, "that ain't a simple patch job. Half the beams need reinforcing. Whoever built it didn't measure the weight angles right. But I can fix it. I can make it strong." "How much would you charge?" Mary asked, expecting a number she couldn't afford. Caleb shook his head. "I'll take a meal. And a corner of the barn to sleep in. Nothing more." Her breath caught. No man in the settlement would work for that. Most demanded money she didn't have, or worse, favors she would never give. Before she could answer, his stomach growled loudly. Caleb stiffened with embarrassment. Mary's fear softened. "Come inside," she said gently. "I'll get you something to eat." Caleb hesitated in the doorway. "I won't take advantage of your kindness," he promised. "I just need a chance to earn my keep." Inside the cabin, Mary served him stew and bread. He thanked her before each bite, almost reverently, like a man who had forgotten what kindness tasted like. After he finished eating, Caleb got up immediately. "I'll start on the roof now." He meant it. He was already heading toward the barn. Mary followed him outside, watching as he climbed the structure with surprising agility. His movements were precise, efficient, confident. not the actions of a drifter desperate for shelter, but of someone who once knew his craft well. Hours passed. The sun sank. Clouds swelled thicker. Caleb didn't stop. Not for water. Not for rest. Not for anything. By late afternoon, Mary stepped outside again and froze. Caleb wasn't just repairing the barn. He was rebuilding it. He had reinforced the beams, straightened broken supports, hand-fitted new angles that made the whole structure look stronger than it had ever been. He climbed down when he saw her watching. "I'll finish tomorrow," Caleb said softly. "The storm won't break it tonight." Mary nodded, unable to find words. But the peace didn't last. Near sunset, the sound of 3 horses echoed down the road. Sheriff Holden and 2 settlers rode toward her property, faces hard, eyes fixed on her barn. Mary felt her stomach twist. The sheriff halted his horse and pointed at Caleb with disgust. "That man is trouble," he warned. "Drifters like him steal what they can't afford. You can't trust a mountain stray." Caleb didn't speak. He didn't defend himself. He stood still, hands loose at his sides, shoulders lowered in quiet humility. Sheriff Holden leaned forward in his saddle. "You've got 1 day to send him away. If he's still here tomorrow, I'll remove him myself." Mary's heart pounded as the sheriff rode off. Caleb turned to her quietly. "I'll leave now," he said. "I won't cause you trouble." Mary shook her head. "You're not leaving," she whispered. "Not tonight." Because, deep down, she already knew. This man was about to change her life, and she wasn't going to let fear take that away. The storm arrived before sunrise, rolling across the mountains with the force of a giant wave. Winds slammed against the cabin walls, rattling the windows. Rain struck the land like 1,000 nails falling from the sky. But inside the barn, not a single drop leaked through the new beams Caleb had built. Mary stood near the doorway, watching the rain slide off the roof in clean sheets. Caleb had worked with the focus of a man repairing more than wood. He was repairing dignity, and she felt a strange warmth knowing she had been the one to give him that chance. Caleb stepped out of the barn, wiping rain from his face. "Roof's holding strong," he said. "Better than I hoped." His shirt was soaked, clinging to him, revealing a frame tougher than she expected from someone so thin. He pulled the tarp from his shoulders and shook it out. "I planned to sleep in the barn, but with the storm." "You'll sleep inside," Mary said before he could finish. "No one should be out in this weather." Caleb stiffened. "I don't want to disrespect your home." "It's not disrespect," she insisted softly. "It's human." He looked at her for a moment, something unreadable in his eyes. Then he nodded. Inside the cabin, Mary lit a lantern and handed Caleb a towel. He dried his hair awkwardly, as if he hadn't handled something that soft in years. "You can take the bed," he said suddenly. "I'll sleep by the stove." Mary almost laughed. "It's my house, and you're my guest. You take the warm spot." He hesitated but obeyed. When he sat near the stove, she noticed how carefully he held himself. Not like a man resting, but like someone ready to run if danger appeared. "Caleb," she asked gently, "who are you running from?" He froze. "I'm not running," he said slowly. "I lost everything. Then I kept moving because if I stopped, I'd have to think about it." Mary didn't push. She simply nodded and returned to her chair. The storm lasted through the night. Thunder rolled like cannon fire. The cabin shook with every gust. But somehow, with Caleb near the stove and Mary keeping watch across the room, the night felt less lonely than any she had known in years. At dawn, the storm broke. Caleb immediately went to work, and by midday the barn was completely repaired, stronger than it had ever been. Mary stood beside him as he hammered the final nail. "You're a good man, Caleb," she said. "Thank you." He swallowed hard. Compliments seemed to wound him deeper than insults. "I told you I'd make it strong," he replied. "You deserve strong." Just then, the sound of horse hooves echoed across the property again. Sheriff Holden. And this time, he wasn't alone. 5 settlers rode with him, all carrying rifles. Mary's stomach twisted. Holden stopped his horse near the barn. "Morning, ma'am," he said with a tone that carried no warmth. "I see you still have your guest." "He's not a guest," Mary said. "He's a worker." "Is that what you think he is?" Holden sneered. "Because I know who he really is. Caleb Ward, that mountain stray from North Ridge? Folks say he burned a cabin in a fight. A criminal. A violent man. Someone like that shouldn't be anywhere near a woman living alone." Mary felt Caleb still beside her. He stared at the ground, jaw tight, as if swallowing a memory that cut deep. "Is it true?" she whispered. Caleb spoke quietly. "I didn't burn that cabin. I was trying to get a family out before the fire spread, but rumors travel faster than the truth." Holden laughed. "That's the story he tells. But we don't trust men like him out here." "You want to keep your land, ma'am? Then send him away now." "No," Mary said firmly, "I won't." Holden sighed, pretending patience. "Mary, you're alone. You're vulnerable. A man like that will take advantage." "He's done nothing but help me," she said. Caleb stepped forward. "I'll leave." Mary grabbed his arm. "No, you stay." Holden's voice hardened. "You're making a dangerous choice." Caleb raised his hand slowly. "If you want me gone, Sheriff, I'll walk out right now." Mary shook her head, trembling. "You're not walking anywhere." "Not because they said so." Holden turned his horse toward his men. "Fine. If he's still here by sundown, I'm coming back with chains." They rode away, dust rising behind them. Caleb watched them disappear, then turned to Mary slowly. "They're right about one thing. Keeping me here will only bring trouble." "I don't care," she said. "You're not a danger, Caleb. You're a man who needed kindness." He stepped closer, voice barely above a whisper. "No one has defended me in years. And no one has helped me in years," she answered. Their eyes met. A spark passed between them. Not romance. Not yet. Something deeper. Two wounded people recognizing the same pain in each other. Caleb took a breath. "If I stay, I'll protect this place. I swear it." "You already have," Mary said. But trouble came sooner than either expected. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, shadows approached the homestead. 3 figures. Not on horses. On foot. Moving fast. Caleb's face darkened. "That's not the sheriff," he said. "Those are men who come after dark because they don't want witnesses." Mary felt her heartbeat quicken. "What do they want?" Caleb stepped forward, shoulders squared. "They want me." He turned to Mary, voice steady. "Get inside. Lock the door. Keep the lantern low. I'll handle them." "Caleb, if anything happens to me," he said softly, "just know. I'm grateful you let me feel human again." Mary froze as he walked into the dark, straight toward the danger. She had no idea that what happened next would change everything. The 3 men stepped out of the shadows with the cold boldness of people who believed they owned the night. They carried clubs and short rifles, the kind used not for hunting animals but for intimidating people. Caleb stopped a few steps in front of them, lit only by the faint glow of the lantern inside Mary's cabin. He didn't raise his fists. He didn't threaten. He stood still and calm, like a man who had decided he would not run again. "You boys sure you want to do this?" he asked quietly. The tallest man sneered. "You brought trouble into this valley the moment you showed your face. Sheriff says you're a criminal. We're just here to help him do what he don't have the stomach for." Caleb's voice stayed steady. "I didn't come here to fight." "That's good," the man said, "because we didn't come here to give you a choice." One of them stepped forward, swinging his club. Caleb grabbed his arm, twisted it, and sent him to the ground without a sound. The move was fast, almost too fast to follow. The other 2 froze in surprise. "You're making a mistake," Caleb warned. "Walk away." Quote, "But fear rarely causes wisdom." One of the men raised his rifle. Mary gasped from inside the cabin. Her hand flew to her mouth to hold back a scream, but Caleb heard the sound, and it changed everything. He moved, not with anger or fury, but with precision. The precision of a man who had been trained for danger long before he had ever become a wanderer. He kicked the rifle aside, then pushed the second man so hard he stumbled backward into the dirt. The third man lunged at Caleb with a knife. Caleb turned, caught his wrist and forced the blade to the ground. The attackers scrambled back, clutching bruised egos more than bruised bodies. "You're crazy," one of them hissed. "Sheriff will hang you for this." "Then tell him the truth," Caleb said. "Tell him you attacked me on private property in the dark." The men backed away slowly, realizing they had picked a fight with someone completely beyond their expectations. "We'll be back," one of them spat before running into the trees. Caleb watched them vanish. His chest rose and fell with controlled breaths. Then he turned back to the cabin. Mary stood inside the doorway, trembling. "Are you hurt?" she asked. "No," he said softly. "Are you?" She shook her head, but tears filled her eyes. Not from fear, but from the weight of everything she had carried for years alone, until this stranger arrived. "Caleb," she whispered, "you saved my life." He stepped closer, rain dripping from his hair, shadows shaping every line of his face. "No," he said gently, "you saved mine. I meant it from the start." She lowered her gaze, her voice barely a whisper. "The sheriff will come in the morning." "I know." "They won't stop until they ruin you." "I know." "Then why did you stay?" Quote, Caleb took a breath. The truth in his eyes was raw, unprotected. "Because for the first time since my wife and son died, I felt like I belonged somewhere. I felt like a man again, and that happened because of you." Mary's breath caught. "You lost your family?" "The fire," he said quietly. "The one the sheriff mentioned. I wasn't running from guilt, I was running from grief. And when I couldn't carry the memories anymore, I wandered. I've been starving for food, yes, but I've been starving for purpose much longer." Mary stepped closer. "You found purpose here." Caleb nodded once. "I did." The moment between them grew warm, fragile, unbreakable at the same time. Then Mary whispered the words that would change everything. "Then don't leave." Caleb held her gaze. "They'll come at sunrise. Then we'll face them together." He had never been offered together before, not since the day his family died. The word hit him deeper than any wound he had ever carried. He reached out slowly, giving her plenty of time to pull away. She didn't. Their hands met, fingers trembling, and something inside both of them settled. When the sun rose, Sheriff Holden arrived with 10 men, but this time, Mary didn't hide. She stood in front of her cabin, rifle at her side, chin high, the mountain wind sweeping through her hair. Caleb stood behind her, not as a runaway, not as a stranger, but as a man ready to defend his home. Holden dismounted. "Mary Dalton, I'm taking that man into custody." "No," she said firmly, "you're not." The sheriff narrowed his eyes. "If he lays one finger on this county, you'll be responsible." Mary's voice didn't shake. "I'll take that responsibility proudly." Caleb stepped forward. "Sheriff, your men attacked me last night. I didn't hurt them. But you need to get control of your people before they start a war they can't finish." Holden looked at Caleb, really looked at him. Something shifted in his expression. "You built that roof?" he asked, pointing to the barn. "Yes." The sheriff's jaw worked. "That's the strongest barn in this valley." There was a pause. A long, heavy pause. Then Holden sighed. "Fine. You want to stay? You stay. But if trouble follows you, it better be good trouble." The sheriff and his men turned and left. Just like that. Mary let out a shaky breath. Caleb placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's done." "No," she said, turning to face him with a trembling smile. "It's just beginning." A soft wind moved across the grass. Caleb brushed a loose strand of hair from her cheek, his touch careful, reverent. "Mary," he whispered, "I don't have much left to give." "You gave me strength," she said. "You gave me safety. You gave me hope. That's more than any man ever gave me." He leaned his forehead against hers. "You gave me a home." Their lips met in a gentle kiss, not rushed, not desperate, but full of gratitude and the promise of a life rebuilt from the ashes. Weeks passed, and the valley saw something it had never seen before. A widow no longer alone. a mountain man no longer wandering. A ranch growing strong under two hearts working side by side. Months later, Mary stood on the porch, watching Caleb finish the last beam on their new fence. He worked with the same quiet devotion he had the first day he repaired her roof. But now he wasn't starving. He wasn't lost. He wasn't alone. He turned, saw her watching, and smiled. A smile so warm it felt like the sunrise after a long winter. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. Mary stepped down and took his hand. "That the man who came to my door begging for work became the man I thank God for every day." Caleb pulled her close. "You made me your king, Mary." She shook her head. "You were never a starving mountain man to me. You were the answer I didn't know I was praying for." And in the golden quiet of Montana, their hearts finally rested where they belonged.